people, and welcome to the Scrolls podcast. And today I am the host, so it's not gonna be the usual smooth smoke talk as we often have. Instead, we're gonna have me gibberish, but that we'll have to do. And today we got one of those most rad order player around, Anti-Rad.
Hello.
Say hello. That's good. Remember that. And then we got a special guest, which is Jan. That's how you pronounce your name, right? Was it?
Yeah, Jan, exactly.
Yeah, Jan. He is the founder and I guess leader still over the Strategic Angels. Is that so?
Now the leadership belongs to Cashflow now.
Okay. But
Yeah.
you are the founder.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is still great. And he's a great player. And we are happy to have him here. Gonna be
Thank you.
great. And then, on as the icing on the cake, we got Eiffel Ice.
Oh,
And,
thank you.
Happy to have you here.
Yeah,
And-
it's glad to be back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today we're gonna talk a lot about order. And we're gonna talk about what we play today as order, and then later on how, well, so to speak, order's history, what have happened over the course of time for order. Why is there no longer any spearmen? What happened to the spearmen and all that fun stuff? Decay happened. And so to start off, give me a moment here to just get something up for me there. We're gonna talk about what deck we are playing at the moment in the current meta. And I think most people are quite aware what the Anti-Rad is at least famous for, but maybe has done a few updates. So you can start, Anti-Rad. What is it that you do in the ranked?
Okay, so for those of you that know me from the game, they know that I play Tempo Order for pretty much throughout the last month or two, probably more like two. I'm gonna link the current version of my deck in chat now, and it's basically, to be honest, it hasn't changed too much since I started experimenting with it. It's a deck that is focused on rushing idols. It falls off very quickly after, I guess, turn 15, maybe 20. You probably won't win any matches. So you basically, your hope is to establish a good position, kill some idols, and then finish off the opponent before he can recover from the early game. And this deck has a lot of cheap creatures. It has a good curve, so it employs pretty much up to 4 resources. It has double creatures on each resource level. So for 1-drops we have knights, Daging Knights, the crossbowmen. For 2-drops we have winged soldiers and infantrymen, and then for 3-drops we have royal skirmishers and winged shields.
And we will go a bit more in depth
okay.
with that later.
Sure, yeah,
But
of course.
for what I also understand, you Eiffel Ice and you Jan. I will keep on saying your name wrong. Was it Jan? Jan?
Yeah, it's fine. You pronounce it very well. No worries.
All right. We go with the Jan. And you two also play a quite aggressive deck. It's not exactly the exact same kind of deck, but it is aggressive one.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I guess we'll link it to.
Yeah, I can do. I can say I as well. I play a bit of all kinds, but I will talk most about my my take on the aggressive one as well, because that is pretty much the ongoing meta with Order. The most popular is going aggressive. There is ways to play more late game and such, but they are not as strong, or at least being used as to as much of a extent. So, as we have that established, you were talking about the scrolls you used, anti-red, and I'm gonna let you keep on talk about that. You were talking about what drops you had, but if it's okay with you, I like to categorize it a bit in the simple fashion with what kind of scrolls do you use to support yourself to reach the victor condition you got in the deck, and what kind of units do you use. And you were on with the point with units with the drops, and you can continue from there. You were talking about the 2-drop with the Wing Soldier.
Yeah, so the idea is to basically have a good curve so that you can start strong very early on from turn 1. It's the best opening if you can just open with creatures on turn 1. I have, in this version of the deck, I have 33 creatures. Not all of them are combat creatures because I've added Wings Warder too, which is, I guess, one of the support scrolls. But most of the army, I guess, is just the usual creatures that you see in most decks, plus some added early drops. So the way I want this deck to be played is basically have a good curve, have some creatures that can deal good damage, and then in the late game, I also think that the Vanguard is very important because it can, I guess it's sort of a support creature and scroll, but it can also obviously like do damage on its own. But I find that very often it adds very much to the field and helps me bring down the idols very much, very quickly. And another creature that I would characterize as, I guess, sort of support is the Wings Cleaver, and I say that because it helps me reach the victory condition. It's usually only on the field by the later part of the game when I've already hopefully sniped some idols and just want to kill the last one, and the Wings Cleaver is sort of a finisher scroll for me most of the games.
Yeah. I would say that I understand how you mean with it's supporting you in that way, but personally I would categorize Wings Cleaver as a more of the victory condition one.
Yeah, I guess so.
As it is one of those that really gives you the victory. What I will say, as I'm looking at your deck here, is what I like to ask about, which is not too common in most decks, is a few things you got here. We can start off that you have 2 speeds instead of 3, and why is that the case?
Yeah, I think when I started with this deck, I started experimenting with this deck even before the Roasted Bean Potion buff. So back then I ran 3 speeds because I felt like I just needed the counter reduction. But obviously speed is not really that great with this deck because you want to play speed basically on the normal way you in late game decks you would use it on a general or a mangonel. So something that has 3 countdown, right? In this deck, you don't really have that many resources, so a 3-cost speed is not that optimal. It's pretty much always preferable to just play Blessing of Haste or Roasted Bean Potion to haste your creatures. The only I guess exception is when you want to play a crossbowman from hand, but those are pretty rare situations, I find. So
Yeah, I can see your understanding
Yeah.
in that.
I think 8 countdown reduction scrolls are enough.
Before I go on to the next card I like to ask about in your deck, is there a input from you, Ivalice, you like to ask that you have a question mark regarding his deck?
Well, yeah, actually, well, I've been trying Wingswarder in tempo order, but basically, why I didn't like it in the end is actually because it doesn't have attack. It slows it down, and I somehow came to a conclusion that yeah, it's okay because you're really lacking in good 2-drops, but then again, even 1 attack 2-drop is better than 0 attack 2-drop. So it kind of shifts more to a bit control
So your,
focused deck.
so your question is why he is running Wingswarder?
Well, not really why he is running Wingswarder, but more like what's his experience with running it, because maybe I didn't test it enough. So
yeah, when I mean when asking him about one of the card, I don't mean like why are you running this dude? It's more like could you give your experience thoughts about this? It's more like that. So
yeah, exactly. That's what
so
I'd love to
Andred,
hear.
why do you feel
Yeah.
Wingswarder may be a keeper for you?
Well, to be honest, it's mostly because of the energy matchup. The way the meta has shifted around lately is that energy is still very prevalent on the ladder. So it's mostly to give me a better chance in this matchup, because I feel like tempo order is slightly disadvantaged in against energy. So it's basically for this matchup. Although I do think that in other matchups it's also quite decent. It has its uses, but I mean, Wingswarder doesn't really fit the theme of the deck of attacking idols, of killing, of gaining more board control. But I find that the thing that stopped me from winning games, especially against energy, was the removal. So if I, for example, started off with with an aging knight, and then the energy player sparked that aging knight on the next turn, and then followed up on turn 4 with a burn, then I had a pretty difficult start, and I feel that protecting units early on against energy is giving me wins that otherwise I would not get.
Yeah.
And later on, go ahead.
I can totally see your point. Also, when it comes to energy, in my own experience, I will see if you agree on this. It feels like energy has moved more forwards, favoring the structure meta, and the structure decks often has way more spells going for them than the energy and then the
Yeah.
range ones. So I can definitely see water being a more favorite pick in the deck when it comes to that. Do you also feel like asking a bit to all of you that you face structure a bit more than range nowadays?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, it's the primary energy build right now.
And same goes to you, Ivalice, or I take that nod as a approval. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I
there's
have.
only a
That's a
couple of
no.
players.
That's not a no.
That's a no. Okay. Anyway, and then to John. Let's
Yes.
let's allow the watchers hear your voice. And do you have a thought when it comes to this deck? Like something you would like to hear how it has been going for anti-red?
Well, it's very interesting because we don't have the same finishers at all. Actually, I have less creatures in my aggro deck. My question would be, how quick can you see an effective use of Wings Clevers? Because you have to ramp up to 6 resource to play them, and you have to take down an opponent idol first.
Yeah, that is true, but I found out that getting Dominion is not that difficult with this deck. If things are going your way, you will be getting control early on, and sniping a one idol early on is not that difficult because the opponent can't really protect all his field at once. So it really depends. I mean, it's
And
sometimes. Yeah.
do you play like Wings Clever and no, it would cost too much. With what do you play speed the most commonly? Because as Valord pointed out, it's a bit surprising to see speed in an aggro deck. With which creature do you use it the most?
Well, to be honest, speed is like the least used counter reduction in this deck. I just added it because I find that counter reduction is very important in this build. So if I have the option of just sucking a speed or a roasted bean potion, I will pretty much 100% go for keeping the roasted bean potion or blessing of haste. So there really aren't that many specific cases when I just use speed as a blessing of haste, basically. So it costs a little bit more, but sometimes you just can't draw the blessing of haste, but you have speed, so I keep it in hand and then use it on a Vanguard or whatever needs
And
to be hasted.
and that goes well into the only card I like to highlight. As I'm pretty sure I know how you probably use it, but I still like you to elaborate on it yourself, and that is the Crossbowman. As Crossbowman is not a common pick. When I see it, it's often when someone has identically copied your deck. So I like you to explain how you came into having the Crossbowman. Why is it a pick for you?
Yeah, so the reason is very simple. I just wanted a another one drop other than the Aging Knight. So probably the Crossbowman is probably the weakest creature in this deck, and something. If I needed to put something in the deck, then maybe Crossbowman would be the first cut from this deck. But if you can get a Crossbowman turn 1, it's still good. Otherwise, I usually just sack Crossbowman unless I can get like on turn 4 I can drop a Royal Skirmisher plus a Crossbowman. Then I feel it's worth it. But later on, Crossbowman is not very good because it usually doesn't get to live that long to attack. And sometimes you can get the speed Crossbowman combo, but that's actually very rare in my experiences.
Yeah, but I was about to mention that it is a possible combo you can do that.
Yes,
like,
it's something
it's one of those. It's hard to pull off, but like you can do a speed Crossbowman and possibly focus for only 5 cost, like 5
Yes.
resources you can reach, and then you can snipe a idol at some place if they are not on the guard. So it's also something you can do in the late game there. All right, then I would like to move on to the deck that you have chosen, Ivalice, and let me see here which one that was. It were.
I kind of noticed that the other guys weren't running Bolter. I guess that's because we.
Yeah,
approached
that
it a
is something
different way.
we can talk about.
Yeah. I basically
alright.
cut fodder for Wings Warders.
So, when it comes to you, Ivalice, let's start now with Jan. Jan,
Yeah.
do you see Ivalice decks here?
Yeah, I'm looking at it currently.
Yeah, and what difference do you spot spot, what would you like to ask when it comes to it?
Okay, so there is one less Wings Clever, no Wings Warder.
You have to choose one.
The rules.
If you have if there is nothing specific on your mind, we can.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the differences right now.
You can think for some time. We can see if there's something with you, Antorad. Antorad, is Ivalice a heretic for having 2 wings cleave instead of 3?
No, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. It comes down on to preference, because even when I've spectated games in the client, I have seen that many players that play tempo don't play as aggressively as I do. I found out that I go for idols more than perhaps some of the other players. So some players just prefer a more, even though they are playing a tempo order deck, they prefer to concentrate more on keeping the field. And I guess you can count one cleaver to just strengthen some other aspect of the deck. And in this case, I think there is one more speed instead of a cleaver.
Yes, and this is what Ivalice will explain when you ask him the question. So I will start, as no one seems to really have. I would like to ask, why do you prefer having 60 placement scrolls here instead of the 3? That is my question to you.
So Antorad was basically spot on when he talked about the approach you put.
Well, how about you repeat all of it though?
So basically, I don't gun idols actually that much. I go for super early board control and try to like gain it fast and never let go. And whenever I can, I deal damage to idols. But basically, I don't concentrate primary on idol damage. So that's why I go for 3 more boarders. Basically, it's board control.
All right. So you do not really have the victory condition of rushing down the idols in the same way. You're more about controlling the board. And
basically, yeah, it's more of the main idea, but.
And by simply having the upper hand on the board, the victory will naturally come over time, so to speak.
Yeah, but sometimes there are those cases where you just can't get the board early, and then the plan mostly shifts to like trying to take the side idols, maybe leaving idols in decimation range and stuff like that, doing idol snipes. It kind of can do both.
Panic mode button.
But yeah, it's more of a board control deck than rush deck.
Okay, so you prefer having board control. In that, I'm sorry for the other 2, but I just have a follow-up question then. In that case, if you prefer the board control, do you not feel then that what Antorad is doing with the Wings Warder will help you with that, as it really provide a good support for board controlling?
Yeah, but basically, I take board control due to being very aggressive and trying to displace scrolls with my cheap displacement scrolls. That was stupid. Anyway, I feel I would lack the aggression to keep board control if I would run border in my kind of build. So,
all right.
So yeah.
Okay.
In my experience, even if you play very early order deck, when you play against growth, sometimes it's worth it to play board control, because growth, it's gonna be harder for growth to kill you through spells, unless they have 2 quakes, but they can easily get discouraged if you kill all their creatures with your roasted bean potions focus, and then they don't have board anymore. But like I'm also talking about the because I used to play aggro order a lot when the Wings captain still had a countdown reduction, but it was another story.
Insane times.
And you have any more comment about the deck anti-red?
Probably not. I would just like to agree with Jan that when you are playing against Growth, then you normally I care about board control more than in other matchups. I try to control the board then.
Right. That is fine then. I just like to highlight for you that you are very good players, so you probably can see these decks and understand why he's doing what he's doing. But it's still good if you highlight something so we explain for those who are not that common order players, so they understand the other decisions, why it is played in a way. So now we're gonna look at Jan's deck here, and he's
the most interesting one, I think.
it's not as it's not as refined as perhaps the other one. As it's not, as I understand, you're not on as much of a extended testing these days, but.
Yes, because I have not played much since the release of Rebellion. I got back into the game a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I got the new Scrolls game and began to play to build my decks again.
But there's still some kind of thought process behind all of this, and that is what we're gonna elaborate on. I'm pretty sure Jan didn't like shrines is pretty, and I want pretty stuff in my deck. He probably had a idea behind this. So we're gonna start off then with I just go here and highlight then the shrine because I mentioned it. So, what is the idea behind the shrine for you? Why did you try that out? Or still try?
When you play aggro early order decks, you will often put creatures that don't have a lot of health points. And this is a problem because when you play against energy, they can easily kill your units with spark, for example. When you play against decay, they have soul steal, they have brain lice. All of these things, even thunder surge. So you want your creatures to have 3 health points and not only 2 health points. But if you want to play drop 1 and drop 2 creatures, here you can see Aging Knights, Crossbowmen, Winged Soldiers. They only have 2 health points. That's good to have them early in the game, but if you want them to survive, playing a shrine is helpful.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. Some patches ago, I tried to make a shrine deck myself with the same kind of idea, and I told my guildists that shrines are actually pretty good against energy because it works as a spell conductor. They need to kill it before they can kill the other units because they got too much health. The thing about it nowadays, I would say, is that Wings Warder is doing the job, but just better. So I personally prefer that over it. But Shrine is still doing that job in a different way. So let's go to you, Evil Eyes. What is your comment on this deck?
Yeah, well, Shrine, man.
Well,
Shrine.
I picked it. You have to pick something else.
Can I do a quick comment about Shrine?
Yeah, sure.
itself?
You can do a quick comment.
What? I love the idea of Shrine, but there's let's be a heretic and like mention Hearthstone. In Hearthstone, they have similar cards that increase health, but what those cards do, like for example, if you increase a creature's health to 3 and it gets hit by 2, the first health it loses is that bonus health it got from the shrine, for example. and even if the shrine is destroyed, it stays alive on 1 health.
Yeah,
But in Scrolls, it's the shrine that keeps those creatures alive. So you kind of become dependent when a creature has 1 health. You become dependent of the shrine.
Yeah, to put it in a simple way, the way it works in Hearthstone is that they basically get a shield, while in Scrolls they get more health. If anyone is a very used gamer, they know that shields often works in a different, separate manner, and even if the shield goes down, the health is the same, while it's a bit different here. Anyway, so yes,
Yeah.
it has a different mechanic, and that is why it's not as if you are a CCG player who play other games than just Scrolls, then you may be like, well, it's strong here, but why is it not in Scrolls? Yes, that is because the mechanic is a bit different. That is true. But that was your quick comment about Shrine. What is your question otherwise about?
Yeah, so I see he's playing a deck that's like the good old Temp Order with a lot of direct idle damage scrolls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what to ask. Like, I don't know how much you have tested it, but do you think it's viable in current meta to run those extra damage scrolls like Color's Bane and Fate Chains?
I didn't have a lot of time to test this deck, but I still used it a bit. And you are right saying that it's inspired from Unscience Tempo decks, because this is where I got. I really played a lot at this period, and I have most of my experience from this period. But I still think there are ideas that are interesting in this deck that you can use to surprise your opponents. For example, Horn of Ages and Redeploys are typically scrolls that your opponents won't have foreseen, and you will be able to make little like problems in their plans. Also, if you, I do have a lot of idle hate because I don't run as many Wings Clevers as you do. For you, like Antirad said, the Wings Clever is a bit of a finisher. For me, the finishers are gonna be all those scrolls of idle hates, Color's Bane, and also Faith Chains. And sometimes you have when you play this kind of deck, sometimes you are in the situation when your opponent has only 1 HP idle that is left to kill, and you can put Crossbowman, Horn of Ages, and Faith Chains on the Crossbowman, and then on the row that you know he's gonna attack, and that wins you the game. It happens. It happened.
Yeah,
it's not fair, but
you have more tricks up your sleeve you can pull out in this deck, which is beneficial.
So, one quick comment. So before, why I didn't like Tempo Order, especially that kind that uses a lot of idle hate or basically spells. It had to go with less creatures, and it was very dependent on your basically first hand. And what I always said was that if we get mulligans, those decks are gonna become better. So I think we might actually see a few more decks that like go for more spells and less creatures, because you can at least try to get a better hand.
We can mention that and bring it up a bit on the topic we will come on later when we talk about the meta that has been, and we will mention some about our prediction in the future meta. And Antirad, do you have a comment about this deck?
Yeah, well, basically, I'm going to be reiterating some of the things that were already said, but I think that scrolls like Redeploy and Horn of Ages are not really very widely used in the current meta, so they can be very good surprises. Especially Redeploy, you can basically totally shift your angle of attack, and when your opponent will, for example, protect the bottom of the field, the bottom idols, you can just flip all your forces or a significant amount of your forces to snipe an idol at the top. And I remember actually losing to that tactic once. So it is definitely viable, and yeah, I think it's something that can work using the scrolls that damage idols directly, and not using cleavers, for example, because these are just different ways to achieve the same thing. Basically, the cleavers are a bit more concentrated. They concentrate the damage on one idol, and these scrolls in this deck kind of spread it out a bit. But basically, it's the same tactic.
And by the way, if anyone is later watching this as some kind of VOD, we'll be linking this deck in the current Reddit thread about this podcast if you want to look up the decks. And if you're watching a really late VOD, then, well, this meta is probably not going on at the moment, so you do not have to worry so much.
I
And
did say they'll be in the video description too, so
yeah.
Yeah.
But that is not in my power, but hopefully they will be there.
we'll make it.
Exactly. I will just make a short comment also when it comes to especially redeploy. Horn of Ages, I know I said redeploy, but I'm taking also quick on Horn of Ages. Horn of Ages, it's good, but on paper all the time for me. But every time I try it, it doesn't give enough value. However, redeploy is actually really good. I've used it. I recently used it in my deck and had great success with it. I did, however, take out it for purification at the moment because purification gave me higher value than redeploy. But redeploy is definitely good. It's very. They do not expect when you have like a Vanguard who has buffed off wings, cleaver, and a whatever more in that lane, and you just put it all in a completely different lane, they get very surprised. So it's definitely.
And I have
Yeah.
a point for redeploy in this kind of deck when you try to rush for idols to kill them as quickly as possible. As you have a lot of early creatures, usually you will be able to get on the central row at the beginning of the game, but sometimes you cannot. So because the opponent is able to defend the central line. So you have to go upwards or downwards and begin to kill the idols that are at the bottom or at the top. And then you will have trouble getting the third idol.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's true.
But you know that in your deck you have redeploys. So you just wait, you sack for scrolls. You know that you have two redeploys on your deck. So you can sack, if you have one too early, you can sacrifice it. It's not a problem. Then you know you have a second one arriving at the right moment. It's a bit based on luck. But if your opponent is able to defend the central line, then you redeploy. Let's say all your creatures are at the top, then you go to the bottom and you win the game like that.
Exactly, it's great for sniping in that way. And now we're running a little bit short on time, but we're gonna take my deck in a rather relative fast manner. And do you have my deck open here now? Or shall I
Indeed.
relink it? I can relink it anyway.
I have it.
Okay. And all right, to put it short, when it comes to the theme is in my deck is it is a tempo deck. like it is based from what Antirad used, but then I have done my own tweaks in it. And
I'd actually. Sorry to interrupt you.
I was
I'd
gonna
actually
finish
call
it.
it mid-range. Mid-range.
No, I am about. I said that. Let me just finish. And
Sure.
yes, it's
Sure.
sort of. I suppose it is mid-range. What I said is that it works. I took it Antirad's tempo, but as he mentioned himself, the thing is that it runs out of steam quite fast. I didn't want to run out of steam that fast. I want to be able to keep on having my steam going and just keep on pushing into the fight toe-to-toe in the late game if I have to reach in that point. So that is what I made so I gave up some stuff in my deck and put in some more late game things to be able to go from the tempo early to the more late game oriented later on. So I give then so to speak, the theme in the deck. You can call it mid-range or whatever, but it is a tempo order that do not run out of steam that fast. It keeps on going for quite a while. So let's start then with Antirad. Antirad, what is your question when it comes to this deck?
Okay, so my question will be, how do you handle not having any kind of scroll, draw, or ramp mechanic in this deck? Because you have generals, and obviously this deck is made for a bit better survivability late game, but usually when I think of maybe late game order, maybe this is not exactly like a game order.
You think about the Imperials,
yeah,
Prison of War, the kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sorry for speeding it up, but it's because we're running out of time, and I'm gonna take the other topics a bit fast later. So, how I deal with the lack of card draw here? Yes, there is lack of card draw, but the thing is, except for maybe the Winged Soldier later on, and depending on what I face, Wings Warder can also be a bit bleh. Whatever I draw here, I'm not gonna feel like, why did I draw that? Everything here is good to draw, so it's okay. And I have 33 creatures in the deck, which mean every time I sack for 2 cards, I pretty much always get some kind of creature, or I have a creature from before. And you just have to play it quite smart. Like, try to play it 2 cards one turn and 1 card next turn. So maybe like a Ducal Infantryman and a Ducal Skirmisher one turn, and next turn you play maybe a Wings Cleaver. And that way you go in net, you go more cards in the long term. So you have it for whenever you need to use free cards and so on. You have to play just a little bit smart in that. And so that is how I deal with the lack of card draw.
Do the generals survive? Because you have to basically play the general, and then the next turn he might be removed by some direct removal. Does that happen often?
It depends what the opponent puts his priority on, and this is what often excites me a bit to see. If he removes my general, then often my cleaver is alive, and if he removes my cleavers, then often I get the general alive. I'm fine with whatever is alive there. In my opinion, general is more worth than cleaver, but sometimes they're really scared of the cleaver and rather remove the cleaver than my general. So, but anyway, as long as I have a general or a cleaver out, I will be able to have enough firepower to fight them in the late game, so to speak. So that is why often one of them gets removed, but I will have the other one going out.
So can I ask
let's go for Ivalice then.
So first thing first, purification, man. It's actually that's just like that's a meta scroll right now, because growth has basically shifted to enchantment heavy growth, like mostly. That's the only growth I see mostly.
It's honestly more for decay. I
For
really,
decay,
I
I think,
really hate
yeah.
infectious blight. My God, I hate infectious.
But still, right now, it actually it's more worth it now to run purification because of machinated decay and of course enchantment heavy growth. So it's not a dead scroll in any matchup basically.
Yeah, it's
Maybe order.
yeah, it works. What we know, order doesn't do. What am I supposed to do? Remove the roasted bean potion buff so he can redraw it later.
All you.
But oh yes, he cannot move two tiles now worth. No, purification. It's something I remove and take in from time to time. Yes, it's kind of nice against the enchantment growth, but I often am able to deal with it in other ways. What I used before was redeploy, as I said, but at the moment I'm trying with purification. It's mostly against the but as you said, it's also a bit of a meta thing because we have growth using enchantment decks and energy do from time to time use potion of resistance, and that is kind of nice when it's kind of these, oh, you use that, well, maybe I draw my purification, and sometimes you do, you know, you're like, hey, I got my purification, fuck your potion of resistance. No swear words, I know, but so yeah, it's a bit of a meta thing, and my hate for when it comes to these poison decks and so on. Otherwise, if I do not have it, I use Decimation to deal Infectious Blight, but I hate killing my own unit because board presence is so vital for order. So I don't really want to do that.
So that was my question actually about Decimation. Like, maybe that's me, but I would expect in a deck like yours to see basically displacement scrolls for board control, but no displacement scrolls and Decimation.
It sounds like maybe Jan is on that one. So
yeah, let's go.
So we go to Jan about.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to ask you to explain why you chose not to include any Fleep or Pother. Yeah, because they are widely considered as staples in most order decks.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it is working to not play them, but it is for me. Yes, it was just one of these things that I'm like, let's test not use them, and then it worked. I'm like, what? My guess is it's working because it's pretty much because of Wings Cleaver, honestly. Because you can actually get the Dominion going, and you can get the Wings Cleaver out. You do not really have to remove anything anywhere because you're gonna just steamroll the lane with the Wings Cleaver. The Wings Cleaver is just gonna kill what is on the lane. And if you do not have that, then you have to simply buff up a skirmisher with focus or whatever and try to kill the lane. If you just keep on hammering the pressure on them and you keep on doing trades, and as I said, this deck do not really run out of steam. You can keep on just pushing out units and keep on doing trades all the time and take out like if they have a Rot Eater and they have a in my tribesman in front of the Rot Eater, I just kill the tribesman. I don't care. I buff the Rot Eater. I will be able to kill the Rot Eater even if the Rot Eater is 7/7, I can kill the Rot Eater. I have enough damage in this deck to be able to take him down. So that is why it's sort of working. I just hammer down the opponent and it's kind of working. But
and do you go for board control mostly? Or...
Yeah, I go more for the board control. I'm not as much of rushing idols. It has full potential to rush idols because it has everything a tempo deck has besides the crossbowman and the but that's the anti-red set that they are one of the more weaker ones, and it do not have the displacement scrolls. But you when it comes to rushing the idols, you don't really need the displacement scrolls as much. They are often more needed for that third idol, which is well protected. But for that, I often have the firepower. So, no, sometimes I rush, and I can still do that. But overall, it works fine. So that is my answer to that.
Yeah.
What really helps, which I have experienced, is that I've tried a few times to remove decimations. Decimations is so goddamn vital in this. If you do not have displacement, you kind of really need decimation, because it becomes really difficult sometimes to take down that last idol. Because sure, you can keep on hammering down the units, but it's hard to hammer down 4 things. Like, you can take down the 3, but they just keep on reinforcing, and you just do not reach that damn idol. So decimations is actually quite vital if you do not have displacement.
Yeah.
So we will now, we do not have much time, but we will take it quite fast and maybe jump through. And we will take the topics of meta shifts over the time here. And we will start with what patch you like to talk about, and we will start with Jan, if you're up for that. What patch you can? I will allow you to take whatever patch you want. What patch did you feel had a impact you liked? It doesn't have to be a drastic major super impact. We all know what that patch was about the order, but impact you like to highlight or talk about when it comes to the meta for order? What was that patch?
Yeah, I think the fact that the Harvester got nerfed to having 4 health points was very good patch, I think, because like for a cost of 3, it was really extremely strong. And actually, like DK used to be my bane as an order player. DK is still. I don't see as much DK as I used to see. There are a lot more of energy decks nowadays, and so basically, I really like the fact that we can see all 4 factions in ranked today. I would also say the fact that we see less Watcher Geddon decks is interesting. And this is mainly due to the fact I think Necrogeddon has a cost of 7 now.
But we will highlight a certain specific patch at the moment. And you were talking about how that patch that reduced the health on the Harvester. At that patch, what did you feel something changed in the meta then? Like, could order then do something specific they could not otherwise do?
Yes, because when you have a Harvester that is at only 4 health points, you can use Flip and kill it quite easily, whereas it was a bit harder to do it before.
So in my memory, and this is quite a while, but in my memory, what you often had to do, is that you cannot really flip and kill it as easily because it had so much health. So you had to a lot of time just avoid it until you found a way to get enough damage to kill it. When now you do not have to be as scared as you was before on the field, because
even with
you
your
can deal with it faster.
Like, even your skirmishers and your wings cleavers can easily reach and kill it because it has lower health points.
Yep. And Ivalice, what patch do you like to highlight that has made an impact on for order?
So that wasn't a patch, that was a micro change, but the Rusted Bean Potion, it was like just a a quick moment and from scroll that never sees action. It's like in every deck now. So
I also like how the roasted bean potion change wasn't like highlighted at all in the patch note. It was just some kind of comment down below. I'm like,
nobody expected
yeah,
that.
I'm like, Mojang, this is quite a big thing, you know.
I actually remember how it came to be. Basically, the lead designer of Scrolls Mans was away, and in the Scrolls Guide Irt's channel, we were basically just talking, and Henry or Carnalizer just offered this change and asked, "Hey guys, what do you think about this?" We all said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And he just patched it in, and that's how it came to be.
And I be honest, I'm a bit on the Mons side there with like it's good, but it's kind of not doing its purpose. And I have a few suggestions myself to see how it goes, how we can change it. One I'm thinking about is maybe we could do like when you use it on a unit, that unit gets like 2 more base countdown, but for every time he moves, a countdown goes down. So in that way, he will be dependent on moving around to attack faster and such. But it's just something in that nature. So it's actually more of a oriented about the movement. And so the roasted bean potion, how did it then have a? Did it have a certain effect on the meta, or was it like just something? Well, now we can use it, or did it have a meta effect?
Well, well, the first impact was basically that, after that scroll, we saw a lot of tempo order appearing again. But I don't think that's like the real reason, because the recent patches added a lot of low cost units, and the shift to more tempo game was bound to be anyway. But
yeah, and I would say tempo existed before that. My own take on the roasted bean potion change is that it hasn't really happened yet, but I'm feeling it's more and more may become a thing. Is that before it was mandatory to have speed with roasted bean potion? It's not really mandatory to have speed. You can cut it out if you really feel your deck do not really depend so much on it. Having just the 6 kind of counter reduction with the roasted bean potion and blessing of haste do work just fine. The more the merrier, but not necessary, and that is something that it may have affected in the meta, I would say. So, and then anti-red. Is there a patch you like to highlight?
Well, I think one patch that comes up to my mind is the patch that the decay resource was first introduced. After that time, there was quite the ladder was dominated quite hard by decay, mostly because of Puppet Soldier nutrition being that good. So I remember a time when a lot of DK players were around, and basically nobody else. Like the top 100 players, from the active players, there were just a couple of people that were not playing DK. And even though this was so disadvantageous for other factions, including Order, I guess Order had the best chance of beating DK, but it was still disadvantaged a bit. I rather quite liked that meta, because I think it produced very fun games for me. I like to play Mangonels back then, and I ran a deck that had Mangonels and 3 transpositions, and I remember this build just sometimes it just killed DK. Like there were times when during a match, a Mangonel would kill, or not one Mangonel, but Mangonels in total would kill 10, 15, 20 units. It was just crazy. So in my mind, maybe it didn't cause a drastic shift because it was still late game order and transposition was being played even before that. But I have fond memories of that time, and I think transposition was a really good card back then.
Yeah, and I will have to say Decay. When Decay was released, it definitely shifted the meta. The two things that really comes to my mind, but more stuff than that happened, but were how spearmen were falling more and more out of favor because it felt like they didn't do enough, and displacement scrolls got more and more popular because it was one of the
Yes.
big answer for the Decay, how to deal with them. So that is definitely a meta shift. And by the way, we are all aware of the patch with the focus nerf, but it's kind of like the big thing, so we're not really
Yeah.
highlighting that. To take it short, focus nerf and the wings captain nerf, it hit late game order, and the way tempo order was played quite hard, and it took quite a time before we could found different ways to play order, and you know about that. The one I gonna mention, it didn't change. It didn't change the meta too much when it comes to order, but it was like the beginning of something terrible, a monster that would soon arise after, and that is the patch that we got introduced to Machine Divinator, because that was the start of Structure Energy, and that is, like, in my opinion, Structure Energy is the only late game deck that is more powerful than late game order, and that became a problem. And you had to, before you didn't, honestly, you didn't take energy that seriously. You're like, sure, I just play my game and do my strong units and kill you. Like, hey, I got the Imperial resources, now I win. But sooner patch after Machine Divinator, you didn't always win, and you had to actually adapt. How do we defeat energy, guys? So that is my patch I will mention. The Machine Divinator patch, the start of something epic. So, before I just want to take a very short, and that will be short before we end this podcast. I'm gonna go through you all. I'm gonna ask, what card do you think? And I'm pretty sure Eternal, if no one has seen or tested it, Eternal Sword is good, okay? We're probably gonna see it in the future. But
It should be good.
otherwise, beside Eternal Sword, what card do you think we might see in the future meta for Order? Let's start with Jan. Jan, do you have a prediction? What might we see?
Of all Order scrolls that exist now,
Of all, everything.
I think I like Night Scholar. I think Night Scholar is very good Order scroll. Actually, in my late game Order deck now, I replaced the Wings Captains with the Night Scholars.
Yeah, you think a Night Scholar is gonna get more favor and be more popular?
To draw scrolls
Yeah.
is great.
It is used, but it has fallen out of favor. But it might become more of a staple again. And Ivalice, what is your pick?
I'm checking the name of it. Second.
My God. you don't-
So I know that in
Imperial
in,
resources. It's good.
No. In oh, here it is. Yeah. In the next patch, I know that those have been saying that they want more lobers for Order, some kind of ballista or something, and I believe we will see something like that. So refined strategy decks might become a thing again. So I actually liked it a lot. So
I like how you say again, as if it's something that
it
has
was
existed.
there was a short moment when they were
It was
in
a short moment where I was just nagging about it and doing it all the time, and then a few people also picked it up. Then I just gave up on it, and I haven't seen it since then. And sure, I act all like, oh, it was all me. No, it wasn't all me, but I'm just
But
saying.
it was interesting enough and actually strong enough that it could be a valid deck in
Okay,
some kind
so
of way.
you pick refined strategy, might see some play in the future.
Yeah,
I think so too, but in the level of redeploy play, I think we will see it. Like redeploy is viable, but not always the first pick. That might be the case in refined strategy.
but with some kind of ballista that shoots in straight line and has maybe piercing or something, it could actually be
Maybe some wild and
Scary.
some Oculus we might see.
Oh no! Oh no!
Anyway, Red, what is your pick?
Yeah, I would just like to comment that on refined strategy, I think actually that I don't really see the value in that scroll that some do, and I think that transposition is just better. Unless we get a structure that gets one base count down, then I think that transposition is pretty much going to be the better scroll.
Well, and that is
overall.
a debate for another time. What is
Yeah,
your
but I just wanted to add this, and from the other scrolls that are not being played all that much, I think Prisoners of War could be something that other players could use to ramp instead of Imperial resources, or alongside Imperial resources. I have not tested it myself, but there is value in this scroll, because when you look at it, it just draws you 3 scrolls for 5 cost. That's not a bad trade. Obviously, you can't really use it in most decks right now, in any basically deck right now, but just the draw value is there.
Yeah, and I'm happy you picked that one, because I had like 2 on my mind, and one of those was that. So I'm happy you took that, then I can take my other one. And my comment about the Prison of War is that I agree. I'm not going to depth why I think it is a good, why it has a good chance, because it's kind of it's in my opinion a bit complicated. But to put it simple, what you actually often do when you sacrifice for cards, if you do not think about it, is that you kind of refine your hand, so you have on your hand what you want to have. And even though you do not shuffle your deck faster because you might draw from the graveyard with Prison of War, you are helping very much the refining in the hand to have what you need to have, because you're sacrificing stuff you know you don't need and so on. But so my own pick is actually a Warding Stone. I once didn't think much about Warding Stone. I now think very highly of it. We have seen it come more into play. More and more people are using it, and I think that will grow. I think it is actually very strong and potent. That it is contending with Wingshield, in my opinion. I sometimes run both. Often I don't just have the room for it, but I think we're gonna see more Warding Stone in the future.
If we see more stones, maybe we will get like the complete stoner order. That's a thing.
Well, if you mean having all the stones, then besides the obelisk, I use it in my late game deck.
But we need more stones. Not enough stones.
Yeah,
Wait,
an alternative win condition. If you fill your board with stones, then you win.
As much as I love to discuss something like that, we need to round up the show now. So thanks for being here, and short shout out, Anti-Red, you have maybe about I don't know, your mom, like what to say.
Hi, Mom.
Well, basically, I want to thank you all for coming here, and thanks to the Badger Guild, because the past 2 months that I've been there was a pretty good time. I have been a bit revitalized in my will to play scrolls, and just the just the happiness to play Scrolls is back again. So thank you all.
Damn, you sound almost as a Pharrell. Like you have been great these 2 months. So what?
I was hit by the focus nerve so hard.
And Evil Eyes, you have a
Um,
shout out. Maybe to that.
Yeah, I need to shout at myself to play more because I've been very busy recently. So
Okay,
shout at Evil is play more.
all right, that works for me. And Jan, some shout out, maybe some highlighting for your angels.
Yeah, I would say like thank you for inviting me, and I would say what is great in Scrolls is that there is the community and the fact that I spent nearly as much time on the forum on Scrolls Guide and with the community as I played the game. So this is also an aspect of Scrolls I wanted to highlight.
All right. And my highlight to Ice Cream, who is putting up with my overtime here on the podcast and helping us every time with the stream, and he's not getting enough hugs for that.
Yep, cheers.
So cheers, and that's all for today. Bye, people.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.